And then they made this beautiful dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The threat of Pharaoh is a real one, is a serious one, and he has the means. He's someone that showed his arrogance and so on, and they're upon the belief. And this can be maybe said or mentioned in minutes after being in disbelief, and then they became believers and they said what they said. So they turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua to Allah. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired them to be like this, to have the firm belief, and then to know that since this is the case, then turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua. That's how the believers, they seek help from Allah, the most powerful tool whatsoever, to be upon al-iman and faith, to be obedient to Allah, and to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dua. This is how the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. So they made this beautiful dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, facing this major trial and facing these threats from Pharaoh. They said, Rabbana, our Lord. And how the word the Lord is mentioned, our Lord, and the significance of it. Rabbana afrigh alayna sabra. Afrigh means they're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pour upon them patience. You know, there's major difference between saying, "Oh our Lord, give us patience," and the word here says afrigh alayna sabra, which means pour upon us. You know, when something is poured upon him, that means he's covered with it. That means he's immersed in it. And that's in that state they need to be patient, because they are being faced with all kinds of serious threats to their life and torture and painful things that many people, they would even compromise their religion very easily when they are facing all these types of threats. Sometimes people, they even compromise their religion because they don't want to be mocked at, for example, or they don't want to be outcast, or they don't want to be looked at as evil people, or whatever there is. Many of the Muslims today, they would compromise their religion because of that. So it's a lesson for all of us that if you want to be firm upon the deen of Islam, when you know that this is the truth, right, be firm upon it, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have certainty in the rewards from Allah, and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us what? To give us patience. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Pour upon us patience. That means a person is immersed in it. And once a person is in patience, that means what? He will be patiently facing these threats. That means he will still and continue to be upon the truth and not to divert away from it, not to be deviated. Because the trials, what it does to people, it takes them away from the truth because of the fear that they're facing and so on. So the most important means, as we see and as we learn from these verses, don't think that you have the power, that you have a strong will, that I know the truth from falsehood, I will be patient, no doubt about it. No, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. And turn to Allah with dua, with sincerity, as the people of Musa alayhi salam and the sorcerers, they became believers and they said that. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. And again, reflect upon the word أَفْرِغ, pour upon us. صَبْرًا. And صَبْرًا is mentioned here, as a statement that makes it the every single meaning of patience is mentioned in the way it's mentioned here, sabran. That means not just a specific act of patience, or now in this moment, or one type of patience over the other, but O Allah, O our Lord, pour upon us what it means by the word patience in all levels. To be patient, to be obedient to Allah, to be patient, to be away from sins, to be patient with the qadr and the destiny of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the other thing that they asked for, وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ, and make us die as Muslims. If a person, they asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be patient and to make them die as Muslims. We all will die. Nobody will live on the face of earth forever. The best man ever walked on the face of earth, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he died. And all of the messengers of Allah, they die. Everybody dies. So everybody shall return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is then the ultimate goal of the believers? Can someone says, "Oh Allah, do not make me die because we like this world so much"? It's never going to happen. And it's a dua that is not valid. It's not permissible to make such a dua, because no matter how long a person lives, everybody shall die. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ forbade us from transgressing in our dua, in our supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because these are ajal, it's limited time. Everybody has limited time, certain specific times and numbers of breath that we have on the face of earth. Once the last one comes or goes in or whatever there is, then nobody will be returned to this life whatsoever. So now, what the heart should be attached to is that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us die as Muslims.